Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and of course, as usual, I'm your host with my panel. And I don't want to take any time in introducing my panel. Let's go straight to introducing the panel because I have a couple announcements to make. To my left, Alvin Henderson. Welcome to the set, Alvin.
Thanks again for inviting me, Steve.
And next to Alvin is Anthony
Sherwood.
Anthony, welcome to the set.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
And then we got another Anthony Clark, who hasn't been here for a while. Anthony, welcome to the set.
Thank you for inviting me back, Steve. It's a pleasure.
And I also want to say congratulations to my to Jada. Jada viewers, she got 7 ones with 6 distinctions. And now she attends NAPS doing A-levels. Fabulous.
Thank you very much.
Tell Jada Uncle Steve says
I will.
congratulations. And keep it. And stranger to the house. Stranger to the house who had some challenges, whose faith was tested.
Yeah.
And you want to tell the viewers why your faith was tested, or you?
Well, it's a pleasure to be back. I have a family member who is dealing with cancer disease.
Okay.
It's taking a toll on the family, but doing well with the treatment, must say. She's responding well. But, you know, we just have to put in a little extra effort and keep her in our prayers. But we move on to the next step now. But it's a pleasure to be here. And I also heard today's a special day for somebody on the panel, you know. So I don't know if we're supposed to congratulate you.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Yay.
Birthday? Whose birthday?
It's your birthday.
Okay, thank you.
Steve,
Keep that under the, yeah.
I thought at this age we stopped counting, but happy birthday anyway.
And as usual, Narada Wilson and
Pleasure to
everybody been calling in and saying, "Where's Narada?" And the show
Well,
is
I'm
no
back,
good
I'm
without Narada. But then I found out it was your family.
Yeah.
So it was,
Yeah,
I
no.
thought you were that good, but your family member was really calling in.
Right, okay.
Okay. All right, so we want to talk. I'm going to make some blanket statements in the show today, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. And I would start off with coaching is overrated, and I really honestly believe coaching is overrated. We can play football without coaches, without a coach. Don't you think so? And Alvin, you want to start?
Well, I will be the first to say that I don't believe that statement at all. And the reason I would say that is because I am one that definitely benefited from having some great coaches. Where I think the question is coming in is in older players. So there's development coaching, I think, is essential. As you get to be an older player who has benefited greatly from development, then I think that statement can be brought in for questioning. But coaching in the development stages, to me, is essential. And good coaching is essential. And if you don't have good coaching, then you won't develop good players.
So when does it become overrated?
I think it's overrated when you have coaches who feel that they, if they don't have good players, they can't have a good team.
Right.
And I have seen people win, for instance, Leicester City in 2 years ago. Just use that as an example. They won a Premier League with players average players who we haven't even heard about. We didn't hear about.
Right.
But because of the collective, the coach was able to get the maximum out of those players. So good coaches will do well with poor players or average players, and they will do marvelous with great players.
And that's true, Anthony, because he made a good point, because that means a coach should really be a motivator, because you could take average players and do well, or you could take great players and do real bad.
Yeah.
So motivation should be part of that, yeah? No?
Definitely. And I think today, if you talk to a lot of coaches or a lot of people who put on courses for coaches, one of the concerns that they have, especially at the youth level, is the fact that there's maybe too much coaching that's happening. That's a common theme in a lot of these courses you go to. And I think good coaches have the ability to make a determination when they need to step back and allow the kids to express themselves. Even at the, at the highest level. I look at Zinedine Zidane and I almost get a sense that he is one of those coaches who really believes in his players and he allows them, sometimes the freedom to express themselves out there. But I think it's one of those, never-ending debates. It's something that we are always challenged with every day in our sessions. When do you just step back and allow them to figure things out themselves, more so than us providing, maybe too much information in some cases. So yeah, I'm here nor there as it pertains to that.
I am totally against that statement. You see what the definition of coaching is in the first instance. Are we just speaking about football aspects of, right, football? Because coaching takes a broad spectrum, right, for me. In dealing with the different personalities of players to motivate them, you can't motivate all the players the same way. Some players you'll be able to motivate them by shouting at them and, come on. Other players you have to be more subtle and, right, and be able to speak to their personality. So in terms of which spectrum of coaching you are speaking about, that is an issue. If it is that I need to, let's just speak about motivation, that is so important. You need to understand the personality of the individual before you can get them to be motivated. Coaching also comes in if you don't have proper students of the game or players who can't analyze the game well, especially their opponents. That's another aspect of coaching that you're not really trying to coach the person's skill level, but you are trying to coach the person's intellect. Look, this player is going to come down on a lifestyle, he cuts into the right and then cuts back out on the left, and you are making the player aware of what the opposition is doing. So it's not actually coaching the person themselves, but different aspects of the game that you are highlighting to different individuals. And I would look at the coaching in a broad spectrum rather than just the skill level. So from the development stage, as Alvin said, yes, you need a little more skill development, teaching players how to, control and so on. And as you advance with the experience of the player, the coaching is supposed to change. How you coach is supposed to change. Coaching even goes into the personal life of the individual, right at different stages. Take, for example, secondary school football. At that stage, yes, you're doing some technical, but the amount of problems kids have with their school as well as football and that is a different aspect of. So the coach is now, right, someone that has to be a multifaceted. So I don't agree with the statement. I am just saying that maybe technical coaching is irrelevant at a certain stage, but coaching in itself continues as you grow.
Let me give him another chance to say what he has to say.
I was trying to
I will
see,
tell you why.
if I could find a way that we could find some points to support the question. I think in a broad sense, I would have to agree with Clarky. I think, and with Anthony, in terms of at the development stages, I think coaching is important, because they still have to understand where their strengths and weaknesses are. You still have to develop certain things. But I believe by the time you cross a certain threshold, it may be more just managing. And I'm just using, as in the English league where they call them managers. You're really just man managing. There's not much you could teach a Cristiano Ronaldo to do that he doesn't already do on his own or already have mastered. So I think it may be that I think sometimes even in the Caribbean or maybe in Trinidad, we expect the coaches to work some sort of miracle, but the reality might be it's just the players that falling short. So he shouldn't really be there trying to teach a player to play a particular position at that level, You have to get it right on the ground. I think that is where the emphasis is in Europe. They always put some of their best coaches at the academies working with the youth because for them, that is the important stage. After that, it could be a hit and miss. You could get a guy who does well. You have a Jose Mourinho who did well at one stage, and then he goes to another team, and you might be seeing some difficulty. I don't think that's a case of the players aren't good or, I think he's just not able to manage the personalities as well as he did in previous clubs.
Yeah, Steve, one of the things that I think that the reason that has come about is because there's been so much pressure on coaches these days.
Correct.
That coaches, in order to maintain their jobs, have to win. In fact, this phenomenon first started, I think, in Brazil. Because Brazil, if you lost 2-3 games,
You're out.
you were gone. And now it seems to have spread to Europe. So that the coach is under so much pressure that he hardly has room to lose any games. And so that's why you would see that recruitment of players now to try and get the best players on your team, and in Trinidad we say who has more corn feed more fowl. If you have money, you bring in the best players and the best coaches. And as a result of that, having the best players gives you a better chance of winning more games and retaining your job.
Correct.
And that is what we are seeing throughout the coaching world these days.
And hence my reason saying coaching is overrated, because if you can get the best players, you don't even need to tell them. They can go in the field and they can work it out. And I should say international and professional coaching then. Maybe modify the statement. International professional coaching is overrated.
However, Steve,
Okay.
when you get the best players, each of those players comes with a personality. And especially if you have the Ronaldos and the so on, they come with an ego. And therefore, as Ainarada put it, I am still calling it coaching. He spoke of it as managing. You still have to manage those personalities, because those best players can clash in terms of egos on the field. So you have to manage that or coach that aspect of the game, not the technical aspect anymore, but you have to manage those personalities so that the team can gel. Because if those personalities clash, you'll have the best players, but they're not gelling.
So then I don't need a coach. Then I need somebody who can coordinate people.
And that's why, right,
So-
Narada said that they call them, right, managers in Europe.
I was wondering, because if we have an example of a coach who hasn't proven himself at
Right.
all, but he has access to the best players, and we've seen results, but it changes so quickly that you realize it, because then he goes to another team. We saw, for example, we saw like County, did well at one club with good access to players, goes to another and he does well, great. But what about the coach that did well because of the great players that I think Di Matteo, for example, everybody praised him at a point. And then you go to another club where you may not have the best players. They didn't win. So was the question that he isn't a good coach? You know, or was it because he had great players?
I can give
But
you
I
an
don't know if
example of
we-
a different way, though.
You know?
David Moyes. David Moyes
enough.
was
That's a good example.
right at Everton. Mediocre players, Everton was playing fantastic.
Yeah.
They beat the big teams and so on. David Moyes was always in the top 4, top 5 while at Everton. He got promoted after Alex
He goes
right,
behind
Ferguson left,
Manchester
gone
United.
Manchester United, but you have big personality players there.
Right.
You don't have the mediocre players that had seen him as a great intellect of football. And you went there and he totally flunked.
Yeah. But I think that we could see, which shows the management side. But have we seen the reverse, where a nobody coach went to a good team and did well? Because then that would show that the emphasis. So I think coaching is still very important, because we have the examples of where managing could work and it can't work. But the coaching side of it, I don't think we have an example of a mediocre coach who went to a great team and did extremely well. I think that is the hard part. We seeing Moyes, but we saw him do well at a mediocre team, and when he went to a good team, he didn't do too well. That is a personality, that is man managing was the problem, not him having to get the players to reach a certain level. So I think because of that, we have to see that coaching is very important in football. It probably isn't overrated.
You see a coach on the line and trying to confusing players in the field, man. I hate to see that. Confusing them, and the player looking to see what the coach saying. It's crazy. Let them work it out.
That is not true, Steve, because sometimes as a coach, you would see a trend happening in your team long before your players see it. I am seeing a trend where the overlapping right back is getting down my right side. And he's done it once. He's done it twice. Am I going to wait until halftime to correct them? No. I'm going to correct that problem now on the field.
I agree.
And so you correct the problem.
Right.
Sometimes you say you might see the coaches too often. But
Right.
there are problems that a coach might see long before the players themselves see it on the field. if you have a good captain, the captain often would see it.
Yeah.
That's why we
Right.
talk about captains in the
Right.
past. That's why I like my captains watching from behind. But coaches often see problems that may be occurring. They're supposed to see, good coaches, long before they may occur. They see a trend happening and they want to break that trend by counteracting that trend long before it happens.
And I see coaches, they coach the whole game. They're more tired than the players after they come home.
It's interesting, Steve. I had a technical director, a guy I rated heavily in the US, an Argentinian guy. And one of the things that he always emphasizes is that if you've done your job during the week, the truth is there's not that much more that you should be doing while the game is being played.
I agree with that.
And it always resonated with me because I sometimes felt like he was trying to say, well, maybe you're not doing enough or the areas that you're leaving out during the week, you know. But it's something I bring to, you know, to present day, you know. Can we get the kids to the point or the players to the point where they have a really good understanding of what should be happening on the field, that we're not required to be on the sidelines directing every maneuver.
Correct.
Right. Especially with the kids.
It's easier said than done, obviously.
No.
It's easier said than done.
It's easy to get done, it's just, especially with the kids. I mean, the kids especially, the adults can handle you. They're like, yeah, right. They're doing that, but in their mind, yeah, right. But the kids is like, they keep running and looking at the coach.
Yeah.
And they're confused.
True.
But I tell you what, let's take a break. But when we come back, I have another statement to make, and I want you to think about it. Formation is overrated because we have all these 1, 12, 9, and all kind of crazy formations. Let's talk about that when we come back. Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
So
Your
Tony
skill
said,
set.
you know, if you have good players, you can use a certain formula. If you don't have those players, you have to use. But it's an efficient way of maximizing the role of those players who are playing football.
We are inspired. We are practiced. We learn. We have challenges. We are supported. We persevere. And we shine. This is our commitment to you.
Field of Dreams, in collaboration with the Secondary Schools Football League, presents the first inaugural All-Star Weekend 2017 at the Mannerism Stadium in Margaret on Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of December 2017. Come out on Saturday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. to witness the skills competition. See the 60-meter dash, team relay with ball, juggling competition, penalty shootout, and much more. Sunday at 3 p.m. vying for the Field of Dreams Challenge Shield. The North All-Star battle the South All-Star. Admission free of charge. Come see the best of the college players for 2017 in action. Don't miss this one.
Don't believe me, just watch.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Guys, before the break, and you guys half right and half wrong. I am always right on the coaching is overrated. But let's talk about formation. Formation definitely now is overrated. And let me hear what you have to say on that. Because we have all kind of crazy formations now. And it's 11 versus 11.
I would just start with one point. I don't think it's overrated because I believe when you're starting to, teach football to the young kids or whatever, you see the trend happening that they follow the ball. Wherever the ball goes, a group of them follow the ball. If you don't, at a certain age, start instilling the formation, I think we would find ourselves at a later stage, everybody just running down the ball. So I would just start the discussion by saying we need to have the formation in order to divide positions, to give footballers or players the understanding that everybody doing one particular job or trying to do a few tasks is not necessary. It's not, it's not the right way to manage the game. One person could attack someone and close down a play to disrupt that person from even considering that side of the field an option. Without that, what we would have seen is persons doing unnecessary work. We might have seen 2 or 3 people go in a particular direction that you don't need 2 or 3 people there. So that's my little start on it.
Anybody else?
Well, I mean, these are some hard-hitting issues, Steve, because it's something that you're constantly discussing, especially the guys who are involved in the football or whatever. I spoke to Russell Atapi, for instance, on Sunday after an event that we had. And this was the exact discussion that we were having, because it seems like he almost feels like, and I agree with him, we've all, for instance, as it pertains to a way forward, we've all as coaches got to figure out, one, the quality of the players that we want, which will allow us potentially to play with a certain formation or a certain approach. I prefer to use approach, because I think the quality of the players that you have could determine the sort of approach that you take. If you've got at the under 15 level, he is the under 15 coach, you've got a fantastic group of players there, it means that you can focus a bit more on what you're doing going forward, for instance. Whereas maybe in his situation, he feels like he's got to focus a bit more on just the defensive aspects of the game. Mm-hmm. So I think the quality of the players will always, for me, determine the sort of a formation that you're utilizing or the approach in general that you're taking. But what I will tell you is that a bad formation could result in you becoming seriously exposed against good teams. You could almost appear naive in some cases because of the formation, a bad formation that you're using against good teams.
What I would say is that good formations or formations give you the most efficient way of playing the players that you have in your coaching group.
That's it.
So if, as
Your
Tony
skill
said,
set.
if you have good players, you can use a certain formation. You don't have those players, you have to use it. But it's an efficient way of maximizing the roles of those players who are playing for you. And it's important to look throughout history to see that we evolved from a predominantly very attacking formation. People, when you tell people about the WM formation where they played with 5 forwards, people say 5 forwards.
Yeah, right.
To what we have now evolved to now, in a 1 forward system, they can't believe it. A lot of that had to do with the fact that, again, you were playing to make sure now that you won. And the Italians with the Catenaccio system, because it was so ultra defensive, they won a lot in the early parts of the World Cup and whatnot because they had a purely defensive system, and more people started becoming defensively oriented, and their formations became defensively oriented. We are now going back and evolving, and I think I spoke on this program recently, that I see now that we are heading back the other way, and where we are going to have less defenders and more midfielders and attacking players because of the fact that coaches are now willing to take more chances and play more attacking football, and they're realizing that with the less attacking players on the field at present, you can now stick a few more people in the middle of the field and eventually stick a few more up front. So I think it's an evolutionary process based on the fact that you're trying to find the most efficient way to play the players that you have.
Well, it's because, though, now everything is in the middle of the park. So there's nothing in the back or up front. So all the football is happening in midfield, which is away from the goal. people get bored. Football is not fun no more. People sit like this watching the game. Back in the day, when they had the 5 forwards and the 3 defenders and the 2 midfielders, the ball went from defense straight to the forwards, and then a midfield might support it, but most of the time the midfield is really to help the defenders.
Yes, but the type of football has changed, and the skill level of the players has also changed, the technical level. So that people with good technique, as Tony said, a team with good technique, and you come with your 2 defenders as you've had in the olden days, a team with good technique and a good formation and excellent in what we now have, the reason for all these players in midfield, excellent in transition, then that's where the key for football is now. Who is best at taking care of the process of transition, going from defense quickly into attack?
I have a different perspective. Huh?
Those are the ones who...
Well, it's still, let's hear us, because it's still 11 v 11. So people get back and help.
I agree with Alvin in terms of the effectiveness and efficiency of the players, right? Because your formation must be based on the players that you have, right? If you have a goalkeeper and 10 defensive-minded players, and you don't have anybody, and also tactics. It depends on the opposition. If your opposition is coming up with a Messi and a Barcelona-type players, you are not going to put 5 forwards up front. You have to tactically look at
what if
your
you have
position.
5 Messi?
Huh?
What if you have 5 Messi?
No, fine. So it depends
You
on
put 5
tactics,
fellas up
right? So it depends on the tactics that the formation will form. However, I think formation actually is linked heavily to economics, because back in the day when you had less prize money and less to lose and all of that, and coaches weren't getting fired as much as they used to get fired, and the prize money wasn't as much as it was before. It was a free-flowing game of football. Who win, you get a trophy, and you go home, and everybody played for fun. As the prize money started to go up, and you had more to gain and more to lose, it was okay, as long as we don't lose, then...
That's what we play for, not to lose.
Right.
And
as long as we
used to play to win.
That's right.
Yes.
But that has to do with economics and what the prize money was, and what the fallout of losing was. Now, as Alvin said, after 3 games, if you lose a game, if you lose 3 games, you're out because you have 0 points. If you get 3 points from those games, you still have a chance, so it's better, draw the games than losing. And then the prize money now that is there in the game. You know what? If I don't lose my games, I would still have a chance in terms of winning the league, because I will be in the middle of the table, and it all has to do with points and economics now.
Okay, we would not agree on formation, but let's see if we could agree on this one, because fitness is underrated and speed underrated. What you guys think about that?
I could never say that fitness, Steve, is underrated, and I could speak from my own little experience. I always thought that I was a fairly fit guy. I took pride in covering a certain amount of miles. I used to tell myself on evenings, if I'm covering 2 or 3 miles, in the area that I lived, then I should be a fairly fit guy. When it became really apparent to me that there's a difference between what I perceived as fitness and what world-class fitness was all about, was at a U20 World Cup. The first game that we're playing is against Australia, for instance. And I remember we did some testing and everything else, and Dwight York was up there in terms of his stats. I consider myself to be fairly fit. Within 15 minutes of that opening game against Australia, I remember experiencing a level of exhaustion that I'd never encountered before. So, it was the funniest thing, because you have all of these scouts that you're aware of, from some of these big teams. And I just recall remembering I'm blowing it just because I cannot keep up at the moment, So fitness, any footballer who believes that you can get away with playing football at a high level without phenomenal fitness levels is definitely naive.
Well, that's why I said it's underrated. I mean, the coaches don't do enough fitness work. You go to a practice session and you see a coach set up a box and doing all kind of crazy stuff for the whole session, and then people go home. And then there's two things you need to do: be fit and be able to play the game, touch it. I remember playing professional when we come to the park and the coach let us get ready, meaning we stretch, we do what we have to do, and then we go straight to scrimmage. And we scrimmage because you have to play to be able to get your skill and to understand the game, especially for the kids.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit, Steve, because I think today there's a field that has emerged probably within the last 15 years or so, which is the sports science field. And there's so much emphasis now on sports science and how do you figure out the best ways of getting players fit? You know, the stages, the categories, using statistics, for instance, intervals, measuring all of those things have now become very, very important. And I think people understand, coaches, clubs understand that fit players are the difference between success and failure. Having Leo Messi for an entire season gives you a better chance of Barcelona winning a Champions League and everything, as opposed to him breaking down halfway through the season.
So, guys, don't you think we don't spend enough time on fitness?
Well, let me just say that there are a couple of things that I would like to say vis-a-vis the Trinidad player. One of the things I used to hate here in Trinidad is that, boy, we overtraining.
Yeah, right.
We overtraining. When it was the opposite, we're not training hard enough.
Right.
And unless you get exposed, as Tony said, he realized it when he got exposure outside. And similar, when we went outside, even before that, I felt that we trained hard. And training on your own is essential.
That's it.
Right.
Essential. You're
That's
not
right.
going to get fit how you should be training with your coach on evenings.
Right.
You're not going to get fit. The
No,
coach
no.
is there predominantly to teach you, elements of the game, your role in the game, tactical formations, how to work with your team. Basic physical fitness is what you do on your own. How you get up every morning and you do your endurance running, you do your sprinting intervals, etc. And judging from what we used to do as youngsters compared what youngsters today do, it's chalk and cheese.
Right.
Trust me, it's chalk and cheese. We used to train hard. And then when I went abroad, I realized there were people training much harder than we were even training. And I thought we trained hard. And what we've seen today is a shadow of in Trinidad and Tobago, is a shadow of what people should be doing to really come to the top. Tony has mentioned it. We now have, a GPS system and other systems that tell us how much running our players are doing, and we're measuring heart rate and pulse rate and recovery times and whatnot. It's now very scientific, and you know how far you can push your player in a training session and what you should be doing in each training session. One training session is tactical, the other is a fitness training session to get them to maximum fitness throughout a season. So it's all laid out for you there, but the point that I want to make, in Trinidad and Tobago, I have not seen anybody yet overtrain.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with this statement. It's right. It is underrated. You need to be fit to perform at a particular level. You need to be fit to stay the length of the season, and more emphasis needs to be placed on fitness. I mean, I see fitness as you're passing your exam before you get a job, right? And that is why you have to do it on your own.
Right.
You have to study on your own. It means you have to train on your own. Because when you go into school, you're just getting, the syllabus, But you have to do extra work, right? That's why you go for extra lessons and you do all of those other things to pass your exam. And the exam is the game, the game day to win that game. You must be fit to get the results that you want to get.
I totally agree. That is underrated, especially more so in Trinidad. I think the what shows is that most of our athletes, and I have colleagues who were in that situation when they went abroad on scholarship, the first thing they complained about is why they were doing so much running for such a long period of time. They didn't see the ball. When they went up in fall semester, all September, October, they're still running and, they're not doing much of the ball work. And I think why I always emphasize on fitness is that if you see two players on a field, both equally good in skill, if one player is able to continue running for a long period of time, eventually the guy who's not able to do every skill set that he has, it just dissipates. It disappears one time. He can't shoot the ball. Just as Anthony said, that feeling he got, you'd realize you can't cross, you can't take a shot, you can't head, you can't go extra mile. And the guy who could continue, even if he's less skillful than you are, he just has to wait until you break down, and he could easily take that ball and do whatever he has to do. So it's something we have to emphasize a lot more in Trinidad.
Yeah, one last comment that I would like to make on fitness. We must make a distinction between fitness and game fitness.
Correct.
All right? I think
Yeah.
you can be very fit and physically fit, endurance levels,
Correct.
your speed and etc.
And not match fit.
And you're not match fit or game fit. To be game fit, you have to play games. And you must be involved in playing games. You made the point. It's important for a young man to be playing. That's the only way you become game fit. And game fitness is totally different from the type of fitness that we've been talking about.
And you know what? Fitness is really recovery.
How fast you recover.
How fast you recover.
Yes.
And that is all it is. But so we just have to work ourselves and then recover fast. I remember playing, I said, in a couple of weeks, I think I could get myself fit enough for games. And there is things like shuttle runs and stuff that will get me fit. So I know the things that will get me fit to play the game. So people know themselves. So goes back all the way back to coaching is overrated because I come with my game. And the coach doesn't have to tell me. I mean, you could tell me, well, Steve, instead of going right, you should go left in this situation, and I should have to be able to see that myself. So anyhow, let's take a break, and when we come back, I want us to talk about speed, how important the speed is to football. Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
But it's just a matter of I was always seeing things faster than them or knowing I could reach in that particular position. And I used to like to compare with Theo Walcott, who's a very quick guy. And a lot of the goals that were scored in Arsenal, the times when he was playing, was actually for him to run off.
We are inspired. We are practiced. We learn. We have challenges. We are supported. We persevere. And we shine. This is our commitment to you.
Field of Dreams, in collaboration with the Secondary Schools Football League, presents the first inaugural All-Star Weekend 2017 at the Manirabdon Stadium in Argyle on Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of December 2017. Come out on Saturday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. to witness the skills competition. See the 60-meter dash, team relay with ball, juggling competition, penalty shootout, and much more. Sunday at 3 p.m. vying for the Field of Dreams Challenge Shield. The North All-Star battle the South All-Star. Admission free of charge. Come see the best of the college players for 2017 in action. Don't miss this one.
Don't believe me, just watch.
welcome back, viewers. Hey guys, before the break, we were talking about what is fitness, and now I want to get into some speed because I always say the only answer for speed is more speed. I would take 11 quick guys and give you all the slow guys, and I think you can beat me. And I want us to talk about speed as far as football is concerned, how important it is and all of that. Let's talk about that.
For me, Steve, if I'm looking for right footballers to make a team, my first qualification would be skill. My second qualification would be speed, right after skill. If you had, why I say skill first, because you could have all the speed in the world and you can't control the ball, you would be ineffective. So skill and then speed and everything else I could work with. So I am in agreement with that statement. I mean, and if you now have skill and speed, yes, after that I want more speed.
So if you have a guy if you have a choice of a lot of skill, but very slow, some speed, a lot of speed, and a little bit of skill, which you going for?
It depends now on the position of the field, and it's a good thing that football has 11 players. So therefore, I can mix and match what you have outlined there to have a good combination of speed and skill.
All right, I buy that. What else?
I think in certain positions, I mean, unquestionably, having pace is a tremendous asset. You know, personally, the thing that attracts me a lot of times to a guy who is quote unquote a forward is in some cases pace and strength as well.
Right.
You know, because I feel like you could teach a lot of things in a game, but you can't teach pace. And the toughest thing for defenders to deal with is a guy who's got tremendous pace, you know. One of the mistakes a lot of coaches make, however, is that you find guys who have that kind of pace, but they're not teaching them different aspects of the game, you know. So at a certain level, you know, the players are going to be good enough, they're going to be able to deal with it. But pace is, you know, a tremendous asset to have.
I totally agree. Speed is extremely useful to any football team, and definitely people in wide positions on a football field and forwards up front. Speed gives a coach the ability to change his tactics widely.
Correct.
If he has people with speed on the team. One of the things that I always caution people about is that speed is not necessarily the ability to run a 100-meter dash.
Right.
You know, because to tell you the honest truth, I feel everybody would pass me at 50 meters when I was playing. But certainly they're catching me.
At the first 10, that's right.
And to me, in the first 10 meters, 5 of which are in your head. I keep on saying that all the time. Because if you can anticipate, and your knowledge of the game is such that your tactical awareness is that you get to a position after reading the situation, before the defender, that speed is in your head, you've read it, and that first 10 yards is yours. So where there are certain qualities of speed that especially forwards or players all about need, and anticipation to me is speed that's inside your head that you bring to fruition out on the field. One of the things about speed too is that it allows the coach the ability to spread the game out on a field. He can push his forwards, push defenses backwards so that his midfield players who might have been now closed down by tactical defenders, his midfield players will have more room and time to play because the speed up front is keeping the defenders honest on the other side of the field. And it's important, as I said, in wide players, because wide players, given room on the outside, can take defenders on, sometimes bring extra defenders to that area because of their pace, and then open up the field on the other side for players to come in and try and get into the attacking third or score goals.
And look at the players today. The good players, they all have quickness. And as Alvin says, 10 yards. That's all you need.
That's right.
You drop your shoulder on one side and you're going 10 yards. You're in.
No, I'm in total agreement. I like to use the example with that is that I was fortunate enough when I played at university in Brazil that the Brazilians are not very quick. You know, they're not this big thing on speed. They actually think it's all about let the guy come to you and wait. And the coaches would always be like I'm running too much, or why you always going so fast or whatever. But what I've realized is while I was playing there, we used to win because a lot of my goals were just because of lapses in the defense. The defender would be there waiting, and I might have gone quick enough, and I would just get the ball. Now, they could have been better than me, and I think a lot of the guys on the team were. But it's just a matter of I was always seeing things faster than them or knowing I could reach in that particular position. And I used to like to compare with Theo Walcott, who's a very quick guy. And a lot of the goals that were scored in Arsenal, the times when he was playing, was actually for him to run off the ball. Sometimes he would make a wronger guy, but it's really just to distract the guy, to go with him, for the other guys who may be a little slower or a little more technically sound to actually score the goals. And I think once you had that speed, like, you know, in the example you used with the little skill and a lot of speed, I think in the wide and the attacking positions, it is something that is very much a benefit because I was talking about a lot of tap-in goals. I had guys, they would hit the shot, the ball would ricochet, but I know the defender was going to think it was going to go out. And you just go there and you were tapping in anything that just fell on the side. So I think speed, as you said, the answer to speed is more speed. And, you know, once you were quicker, it gave you an extra edge. But I liked how Doc phrased it in the sense that it's not only the fact that I was in 50 meters, I was faster than these guys. It was actually, I would have seen this guy is going to hold a ball for 2 seconds because he wants to lift his head and then pass it. So better I just put some pressure on him and he might fumble the ball. And you were just seeing plays a little faster.
And speed, Steve, of gain, we have to characterize speed, as Alvin said. It's speed of thought, speed of action, speed, actual athletic speed. So, you have to have a good combination of all those speeds, right? So it's not just athletic, because you could have athletic speed and a drop of the shoulder will send that person with athletic speed blazing across, right? So, speed of thought is also extremely important. So, again, we have to characterize and have a broad spectrum of the word speed and apply it to all the aspects of the game.
Yeah, I'd also add excitement to the game for the fans as well. Huh?
Yes.
Trust me, because from the time somebody who's quick pick up the ball and the crowd know they're taking him for a run,
and
everybody's boiled up.
When Tony was talking there, they brought in they brought in something to my mind, and I must bring it out here. When we were in Trinidad growing up, it was obvious that Steve was one of the fastest players. And we saw that Steve and Archie were the 2 fastest players in our generation, and they carried that same speed to professional football up in the States. And that was the asset. But I think that I played with a footballer who was faster than Steve David, and everybody said, Alvin, who is that? And he was from Trinidad. Keith Acquis, who played down for Civic Center, in my opinion, was faster than you. We could argue that. But I remember Keith Acquis running, and trust me, is the fastest footballer I have ever seen. His knees used to be up on open
high knee
field.
lift,
High knee lift, but he wasn't, whereas Steve would be faster over 5-10 yards and then break up the speed. Give Keith Acquis a 100-meter race.
But Alvin, let me ask this question. Steve was quick.
Rest in peace, he died last.
Steve was quick with the ball at his feet. He used to run that ball at his foot, and he was moving at pace with good control of the ball. So we're not speaking just about athletic speed, 100-meter dash, like Usain Bolt. Steve's skill level with his pace was what his asset was. So he wasn't running onto the balls and passing players and meeting the ball. Steve used to run with that ball at his feet like if it was a 100-yard dash.
And to me, Trinidad football has gotten away.
Gotten away. I agree.
Gotten away from those assets that we had as young people growing up, that we always had. I wasn't one of them, but I always played with a number of players who had blazing speed up front that used to give me the little holes to come into afterwards to do what I had to do. So Keith Ackley, may rest in peace. I would have liked to see both of you all run a race, honestly.
You guys talking Archie. Archie with every step he
Right
made,
with that ball.
touching the ball.
Yeah.
And there was, I don't know if you guys saw this, Jeff, you know Jeff Lewis?
Yeah, of course.
Jeff is as quick as you can get, right?
And Jeff was a wing back,
Archie,
right?
Huh?
Jeff was a wing back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right back and
Yeah.
Archie left wing. From the time Archie pick up, the crowd started going because they know Archie going right to Jeff. And the race is on.
That's like Leonson father.
And they're like this.
Jeff
And
Lewis.
Archie had one beat. He put his foot on the ball, the front foot, on the ball. Not one, but he had many, but this is a good one. Him and Jeff is like top speed. Puts his foot on it and stop it. Jeff stopped like Flintstone. Screep. And then Archie just continue running and just drag the ball with the other foot. Then Jeff realized Archie go, he got back behind Archie. Again, the whole crowd go crazy. So this is kind of excitement, speed, and all kind of stuff bring that I don't see in the game today.
Yeah.
And I would look at Jovan. He can run.
He can run.
And every time he takes somebody on a run and he comes back, I find he should take them on the second run, and he doesn't do that. That is my only problem I have with him. Extend yourself. Sometimes you might lose the fight, the battle, but that's okay. At least the guy knows you can run it.
But as it relates today, I mean, to what's happening presently, I think that could be maybe one of the differences between, let's say, Stephen Hart and Dennis Lawrence. Dennis Lawrence seems to prefer guys who, for instance, Stephen Hart used quite a bit of Kenwyn Jones, whereas you can tell Dennis Lawrence is now interested in players like Bo Swin, for instance, guys who can get in behind and put defenders under pressure. So I guess it comes back to coaching, Steve?
Coaching.
I like how you said that one again.
I told you. Listen. But let's talk about, we need, right now in Trinidad football, we need a goal scorer. And maybe we have that in Molino. Who knows? I mean, Molino is still yet to find a position, whether he playing forward
Or midfield.
He plays right in the middle of both of them. I don't know. So he needs to decide. And I think maybe we can make him our Stone John, because we need to find a Stone John.
Yeah.
And where is
I
where that
don't
person?
think Molino will ever be.
Be a stone shot, correct.
Molino might be a goal scorer from midfield, but I don't think he will ever be your 20-plus goal
Right.
top scorer. Right now, as I said, and as I told you before, the closest thing I saw on that field, and I mentioned it, was Winchester. I didn't see, or Plaza. Plaza disappointed me greatly because I felt that he would play better in this tournament. I still don't even see Boatswain yet as a 20-plus goal scorer.
Right.
And I'm looking down in the lower reaches, the under-20s,
To see
and
if
I haven't seen one there either.
Yeah.
So I've seen a few at the lower levels, trust me. But I am yet to see somebody who revels in the fact that they're putting in the ball in the back of the net consistently. And we may have to go to players like the little boy from St. Anthony, is the Beckles boy, Hailey Beckles, who people don't see him as a great player. But
He
trust
scores.
me, he scores, and he scores plenty goals.
He's like a Woodley,
Like
Luciano.
Luciano Woodley is like a Wilfred Cave,
Right.
Fellas who
Have
they're not spectacular by what other people think, but they're spectacular on my team because they could stick the ball
But
in.
they won't
Correct.
go. So
I totally agree. Just to support Doc on that, it's something I think if we're not careful, we're going to probably not have that type of player for the next 5 years, because there isn't any at the moment. We're going to probably have to convert somebody or work with the guys that we have that are a little down here and probably use 2 or 3 of them, keep circulating them. But I think we need to find somebody down there and give this guy the opportunity to work, you know, just in some of the local games that they're having, just with the local base team, just to get them that little edge so that within the next 3 to 4 years, we could see this person solidified on the national team. It's something all the other countries do. You bring in a 16, 17-year-old, bring him on the team, just have him around. He may not travel with them, but just for the local games, the training, with the local base team, I think it is coming from that age group, because even in the secondary schools right now, we're not seeing a lot of the strikers putting up 10 goals easily.
Right.
And that is something that's pretty strange. The goals are just coming from all over now,
Right.
you know.
But Sherwood must have seen that, man. Sherwood, you're a good site, good coach.
No,
academy?
I think it comes back to what Alvin was saying. I mean, I don't know if these kids are working
Home.
as hard as they need to in order to perfect their craft. You know, you cannot have an eye for goal. You can't have, you know, an appetite for scoring goals if it's not something you obsess about every training session, away from training sessions. And this generation, I think, is suffering from just, again, what Doc talked about, you know. To this day, I tell you, I play football with Stern John. We've got an old man's team that we play. And every single game that we play, Stern John wants to score.
And he's aggressive.
And he's going to hammer everybody who comes up against him in order to get the ball back in the net.
That's it.
I think
You
one
know,
of those
and
things
it's
as-
a mentality, you know.
Right, I think one of those things as well is right, what we call formation is affecting that skill level or ability to because as the game went back from 3 forwards, from 4 forwards, from 5 forwards, back to now 1 striker, the emphasis on the ability to put that ball in the back of the net is actually dwindling.
Okay. Any parting words for anybody? I've got 1 minute. Yeah?
Well, I would like people to come out and see us play against the Trinidad and Tobago team, play against Grenada and Guyana.
Yeah.
People say, why are we playing them? We need
to
to
start
get
something.
games.
Yeah.
The coach needs to have games under his belt to be able to see the players that he feels are going to help us in the future. You know, sometimes you have to start from the lower ebb and reach to
move
the
up,
top.
yeah.
You may not be able to get the top games of the top teams in the world at this point in time. And we need to come out and see what we're doing against Grenada and Guyana, teams I feel we should beat convincingly. And let's see what we're doing, see if the coach could get some of his formation and his philosophy out there with the team. We're playing them in the next international break.
Okay. Thank you, ACTN, for giving us the opportunity. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in every Monday night. Appreciate you so much. Panel, thank you guys so much, man.
Pleasure.
I always appreciate you, even though you guys didn't agree with me on most of my stuff, but that's okay. I can deal with that. All right? We do have a Facebook page. You can check us out. We do have an email address, fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. Drop us a line. We also going to bring, on December 10th, there's a secondary schools all-star north-south football game you guys need to attend. And there's a skills competition on the Saturday, the 9th of December before that. Make sure you attend, viewers. We want to see you guys all there. The show has ended. Go in peace. I'll see you next Monday night. Goodbye.